Good evening. This is Thursday, September 25th, 40 days until the 2008 presidential election. The bipartisan leadership of the Senate this afternoon reaching fundamental agreement on principles for a bailout bill amid a financial crisis purportedly so urgent that the Republican nominee for president pretending to suspend his campaign just to attend to it, which he might have been able to do had he not metaphorically parachuted into the Capitol as the agreement was already being announced. Our fifth story on the countdown. Late this afternoon, House Republicans abandoning that agreement to float instead an entirely new plan, starting over from scratch. The only urgency for House Republicans, the White House, and the McCain campaign concerning the bailout seems to be that Senator McCain be seen taking credit for it. Senator Christopher Dodd, chairman of the Banking Committee, saying that today's bailout meeting at the White House seemed to have less to do with rescuing Wall Street than it did with rescuing Senator McCain.
We were asked to come down to sort of sit in a room, I guess, to listen to the House Republicans talk about some core idea they had that was different than what Hank Paulson has in mind. For 6 days, David, I've worked on a plan that the Paulson plan that was set up. We changed it dramatically. But all of a sudden, to be told there's some new idea kicking around, I didn't need to be in the White House for that, basically to have a photo opportunity for John McCain. But for the life of me, I don't quite understand what was going on down there except political theater.
The events leading up to the White House matinee leaving little doubt that politics now trumping the economic necessities of the bailout deal. Still in New York this morning at the Clinton Global Initiative, not exactly a non-political event. Senator McCain offering talk, loudly campaigning about how he had suspended his campaign because of the crisis and his urgent need to get back to Washington 18 hours after he first said he was urgently going back there, urgently.
I cannot carry on a campaign as though this dangerous situation had not occurred, or as though a solution were at hand, which it clearly is not. As of this morning, I suspended my political campaign, as you know, with so much on the line for America and the world. The debate that matters most right now is taking place in the United States Capitol, and I intend to join it.
Only, as we mentioned, Senator McCain arriving back at the Capitol after the agreement he needed to be seen spearheading had already been announced. Some 22 hours after he announced he would be suspending his campaign. Flight time from LaGuardia to D.C. National Airport, an hour, 15 minutes. Not that his campaign ever really was suspended. The Huffington Post calling 15 different McCain campaign offices in battleground states across the country today, not one of them saying they had halted operations nor were planning to because of the purported suspension of the campaign. Several not even aware that the Republican nominee had officially stopped campaigning. As of Tuesday, Mr. McCain himself not even aware of what was in the Paulson proposal, all 3 pages of it.
Would you vote for it as it's presently constructed? Why or why not?
I have not had a chance to see it in writing, so I have to examine that.
As if any further proof might have been needed that Senator McCain had been playing politics with this bailout. According to the list of attendees released in advance of today's White House meeting, Senator McCain accompanied by a campaign aide, economic advisor Douglas Blackberry Holtz-Eakin. Senator Obama accompanied by his legislative counsel, Ian Solomon. Tonight, after the White House meeting, Senator Obama confirming that posturing and politics trumped helping the American people.
What I've found, and I think was confirmed today, is that when you inject presidential politics into delicate negotiations, it's not necessarily as helpful as it needs to be. Just because there's a lot of glare of the spotlight, there's the potential for posturing or suspicions.
Time now to call in our own Howard Fineman, also, of course, senior Washington correspondent for Newsweek magazine. Howard, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
What happened? Tentative deal at 8 minutes to 1. Then McCain gets there. Did the Republicans blow this thing up? Did McCain blow this thing up?
Well, the thing was sort of blown up, at least among conservative House Republicans, in spite of the deal that was announced at 1 o'clock. So what McCain came back here to Washington to parachute into was a revolt within his own party. And if he really wanted to do something to seal the deal, as he indicated he wanted to, what he needed to do was go give a talking to House Republicans and tell them to get on board. But that was way too dangerous for him to do politically. So what his presence here actually did was turn a disagreement between House Republicans and the rest of the Congress into an open revolt. So he rather than calm the situation, he inflamed it.
So I'm guessing with the negotiations scheduled at least to resume at about 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Did McCain set himself up to be either A, the savior, or B, the maverick who votes no, or did the thing kind of fall in on top of him?
I think it's fallen in on top of him. He's got to hope now that there will be a deal, even if it results in jamming it down the throats of the conservatives at his own party base that he spent so much time wooing by picking Sarah Palin, among other things. But he's got to hope for that, and he's got to hope that somehow he can claim victory for making it happen. But based on what I heard from this meeting today, and I talked to some people who were in there and lots of people who know about it moment by moment, McCain wasn't exerting any leadership there. He was barely a presence in the room, so it's a little hard to see, how he was acting like John Wayne, having just, parachuted onto the deck of the aircraft carrier.
So, but if he now makes this happen, if it's now what is of the various scenarios the best case scenario left, if he makes it happen, does he lose the conservative base?
Well, he could well, as a matter of fact, because the upset about it is genuine, Keith. Among conservatives, they look at this as a $700 billion down payment on the federal government's federalizing of the entire capitalist economy. They view it in those kinds of apocalyptic terms. Most of the American people have concerns about it as well, maybe not quite as dramatic. So he's in a tough situation here where he's volunteered to lead the charge for something that a lot of the American people have doubts about and that his own party base has tremendous doubts about. But he set himself up for this, and if he doesn't come through with some kind of agreement, he's going to look even sillier than he does right this minute.
One numerical clarification, because you keep hearing this, $700 billion is the value of all of the loans that would be involved, all of the financial illiquid assets.
Right.
$100 billion is the estimated amount of the ones that are in danger. The other 600 are actually would not be bad investments for you, me, or the government. A final question. Politically, where do we stand in terms of whatever the goal is tomorrow, having a debate or Senator McCain being able to not have a debate like he didn't have a debate in 2000?
Well, I think he's trying to let himself out of the corner that he painted himself into. He said a little bit earlier tonight that he's hoping that there will be enough of an agreement that will allow him to go down to Oxford, Mississippi tomorrow night. I think those words "enough of" show that he really knows that he has to show up there tomorrow night. He can't not do this because there are going to be 60, 70 million people tuning in to see side by side for the first time in a general election setting Barack Obama and John McCain. He can't afford not to be there for that moment.
You got to give the people what they want. Howard Fineman of MSNBC and Newsweek. Thanks for the insight tonight, Howard, of all nights.
Thank you, Keith.
For the